So I'm here with a good friend of mine, Lameck Mabonga. He's written a very amazing book called Diary of a Filmmaker, Conversations with Africa's Filmmakers. Lameck, morning,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Thank you for having me, sir.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
This is an interesting book.
Thank you.
And you know this thing about us Africans and books. Do you think that thing has changed? You know what I'm talking about? You want to hide anything from an African? Put it in the book and they're never going to find it. Do you think that has changed? Do you think that Africans have changed their attitude around reading? So tell me, do you think so?
It hasn't changed. It's very difficult to convince an African to read a book. But what I've realized that Africans actually want to, if you can turn that book maybe into a movie, they'll love the movie more than the book.
Why do you think so? Why is it that we don't want to read as Africans? I mean, you know, it's the only way that people's lives changes is through getting content, and very powerful content, and this has to do with African filmmaking, because the sad thing about film and storytelling is, let me give an example. The latest documentary about Winnie Mandela's life was shot by a French woman. Am I right?
That's correct.
Now, where were you? Why were you not the one that shot that documentary?
I guess we're still living in yesterday's world. We have never seen ourselves getting outside the box, and knowledge, we have believed receiving knowledge from someone telling us, like in a class when someone is teaching. But getting that knowledge from a book or from the internet, we're still yet to get there. That's why these Americans, they are coming and do tell our own stories here, and yet we are there ourselves.
Yeah. So what is it that's going to change? I mean, I'm an African first, then I'm a South African second, and I have learned that my life was transformed when I became hungry and I started reading books. And not only did I read books for the sake of reading them, my philosophy is quite simple. Every book that I read, I must take 3 things that I can apply to my life and 3 things that I can teach to other people.
Wow.
Because the things that we teach are the things that we learn the most. So that's just every book I read. That's my philosophy. 3 for myself and 3 for other people. What is it that you think we should do, especially for the young Africans? You know, if you look at South Africa and Nigeria, where the 2 polar countries, both with the highest number of young people, Nigeria the biggest of the 2, and if you look at unemployment in South Africa, it's over 30% young people unemployed. So what is it that you think we should do to inspire young people to go and read and turn their lives around?
I guess one of the things that can help is to split the content and do probably workshops and seminars. You just teach them the same content that is in the book that they don't want to read. I guess we don't have time to read the book, but if you just copy,
you've just said something amazing. You said maybe we should run seminars and workshops and teach these people what's in the book. I have been running seminars and workshops for some time.
Yes.
Most of my work I do in the corporate world, and people say, "Oh man, we have never heard about you. You know, people need your knowledge. Go out and teach." And I try to do that. Lameck, I set up workshops, whatever. 6 people show up. Set up a workshop in this township, 5 people show up. But in the same environment, when there's a Kwaito artist, people will flock there. Why is it that Africans, we are more consumers than we want to become producers? Why? What is wrong? What is it that we're not doing right?
I guess it's the mindset, because if we look at here specifically in Mzansi, it's soccer and entertainment, those 2 things. So if you look at reading, it's not for us. I don't know it's for who, but really it needs a serious work for us to get there.
Because, you know, there's an article that came out in the newspaper, you know, written by a guy called Prince Mashele. Actually, you know, when I read this article, you know, and it sort of pained me a little bit, but there was a semblance of truth in what this guy has written. I just want to take out a small little extract from this article, and then, you know, and then we just, you know, have a little chat around it, because it kind of, and each time I try to get people to talk about it, you know, people, you know, they run away from this truth. See, this guy says, you know, he says, a lot of people think that, what's happening in South Africa is becoming the end of South Africa. We are junk status and all these kind of things. And this guy says, no. Actually, what's happening in South Africa is a very African thing. He says, I'm gonna read what he says here.
Okay.
He says, during the president of Nelson Mandela and Thabo Mbeki, some of us used to believe that the black people of South Africa are better than those of other African countries. Then he says, we must all thank Zuma for revealing our true African character, that the idea of rule of law is not part of who we are, and that constitutionalism is a concept far ahead of us as a people. Then he says, how else are we to explain the thousands of people who flock to stadiums to clap hands for a president who has violated their country's constitution? Such people have no idea of constitutionalism. So what this guy says, he says, we should forget the romance that says South Africa, we're different, we're going to be the beacon of hope for the African continent. It says we're just typical another African country. He says, if you look at our leaders, they are corrupt. If you look at the government is not delivering the promise that it said to deliver to people. If you look at us in the private sector, by the way, a lot of people think, government is corrupt. Private sector is the worst. Collusion on can you imagine that these people are colluding on bread?
Yes.
They are now colluding, they are overpricing airtime and data. Drugs that would save people's lives, cancer drugs, these pharmaceutical companies are colluding to spike up the prices by over 300%. So the big question I'm saying, Lameck, me and you, as men who write books, who go out there and interact with society, what is it that we need to change in the mind of an African for us to stop being a basket case that thinks somebody's going to come from somewhere and save us? What is it that me and you need to do to transform this nation?
That's very interesting. It's something that I just wrote in my second book. As Africans, from the time when you are born, you go to school. From school, you are told, the culture, the system, it tells you that you need to finish school and get a job.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tell you that you need to finish school and start a business.
Yeah.
So the moment you are employed, you are shut down. So for you to move out from employment to start your own business, because the salary that they give you, it doesn't last you 30 days.
Yeah.
Because if they give you a salary that lasts you more than 30 days, you won't come back.
You won't come back to it.
So it will last you 20 days. The other 10 days you have to borrow so that you come back, you get paid again.
Yeah. But how do we? But there has to be a breaking point. There has to be a time in our lives as Africans when we say, okay, guys, let's take a back seat here. Because if you look at biblical information, Africa is funny because Africa goes to church more than other nations in the world. But Africa is more poor. We are rich underground. We've got amazing natural resources. And when these resources come to the fore, they're not brought up by us. They are taken to other countries for beneficiation. They bring them back and sell us. Now, a lot of people think I'm controversial when I say this, but it's not me who says it. It's not me who said it. It is actually King Solomon who said, woe unto the land when a slave becomes king. Isn't that fascinating? That if slavery is so when people are so deprived that they live with this illusion of limited resources, so they think things are going to come to an end. So when somebody becomes a leader, the first thing that he does is to serve himself, not serve the people.
Exactly.
Have a big house, mini cars, bodyguards, private jets, and all these kind of things. By the way, I'm not trying to the Queen of England does not have a private jet. Do you know that?
I didn't know.
She flies British Airways.
What?
Yes. The Queen of England doesn't own a private jet. And yet, most African presidents own private jets. And when they are sick, guess what?
They don't get treated in the country.
In their own country, they go back to their old colonial countries. Those that were colonized by the French, they go to France. Those that were colonized by the British, they go to England and those kind of things. Now, my friend, Mr. Lameck,
yes,
me and you have to break this mold. We have to come up with a revolutionary process. Not a speech, not an idea, but roll our sleeves down and say, let's change this continent. What is it that you think we should change?
What we need to do is I don't know how government can assist with that, where maybe they can just have like giant screens all over like in the parks and run some material for people to learn for free and all that. I know education is there on the internet, it's there in the books, but for us, we're really not getting it. I realized that as an African, most of us were born into slavery. And if I look at my parents, they never achieved anything. So there is that mind in me that tells me that my dad was just a useless man. He died and left me nothing. So I never motivate myself to say, I think I will do better than my father. So I will still have that mindset that my parents were just poor, so let me just continue with the legacy of being poor. But that paradigm shift where we just need to switch and say, no, I think I can do it better. So now, just like you give someone $1 million right now, or that person wins the lotto, most people that have won the lotto,
97% of them lose the money because it's mind over matter. They don't have a clue what they've got.
if that money, if someone who is intelligent gets that money, can do something better with it, but it's falling in the wrong hands.
But also, I think one of the things that we have a challenge in Africa, especially when I talk about the South African context, this slave mentality is a very sad thing. Because, most South Africans, when they meet, like you've got a friend you have not seen for a year, 2, 3 years, the conversation is going to go, hey, Lameck, how's it? How are things going, man? So what are you driving now? Isn't that fascinating? People are interested in what car you're driving. And a car is not an asset, it's a liability.
Exactly.
It doesn't build anything, it's just a big black hole where you throw in money. And then they drive these fancy cars and they live in townhouses that they've rented. Literally. And I'm talking about soccer players, musicians, you name it. The guys that are always on Instagram portraying this fantastic life. But unfortunately, most people live in this illusion that has been created by social media, that everybody, on social media, everybody's got a six-pack. On social media, everybody, lives a very nice life, wears expensive clothes, and they drink champagne all the time. But quite honestly, that's not the truth. It's tough. A friend of mine once said to me, people watch the Kardashians and they have fun, and they think they're going to live that life. He says, no, it's not possible to live that life. These people are living an illusion, and we in South Africa, women spend a lot of their hard-earned money buying fake hair. I'm being honest, I call it cut and paste. They buy this fake hair so that they can pretend to be very swanky and not who they are. But the truth is, you can have the funky hair and whatever, but the truth is, what are you building? What are you inspiring? I think as a nation, we have to have this, I don't like to call it spiritual because then we're going to go into a very different tangent. We need to have a paradigm shifting indaba. We need to have a collective conversation or dialogue as a nation that says, 23 years down the line into the democratic process, what has happened? And by the way, forget government. Don't tell me about government. When people say, I say, forget it. There is no government in this continent that's interested in releasing wealth to their people. There isn't. Tell me about any Zimbabwe, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, you name it. They are in it for themselves. So it's men like me and you that have to say to the nation, guys, again, biblically they say the government's responsibility is to carry the sword to protect the righteous from the wicked so that the righteous may prosper. So that's a biblical explanation of what the government should be. So the government must just protect us and then create an environment so that we can make money. But we cannot make money while we still allow people to live with this mentality of consumerism. I mean, I find it funny that you go and you see a young girl of less than 20, 21, carrying a baby, small little baby, and the baby's wearing Nikes, small little, small little itsy bitty Nikes like this. And you can see, number one, child out of wedlock. Number two, the guy either disappeared or something. Exactly. And where does this Nike come from? From her mother's grant or her grant. So I think, Lameck, we should call it the truth. And the truth is, we Africans have to get our act together. Nobody's going to do it for us. There's no Messiah that's going to come and liberate us. There's no white person that's going to come from any country in the world to come and help us. It's about time that we accept this one profound truth, that we have to deal with our slave mentality. Bob Marley has a song that's called the Redemption Song. It says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. No one else can do it but yourself. So as a nation, as Africans, we've got to get out of this space of consuming and ask ourselves, what can we produce?
I think we are too comfortable in us being dead. Let me give you an example. The government is giving people grants. People that are not working. The moment you have a kid, you are given another grant and all that. So we are comfortable with that. And you hear the mother say, go make another baby so that you're cooler. So with that, it's forcing people not to go and work. You just take that money and abuse it.
I think, but the government is doing this for their own end. Keep people poor and keep them illiterate so that you can control their lives. It's a system, it's not accidental. That's why I'm saying we have to challenge ourselves as a society and challenge the way that we think. And I think if men like you, who's written this fantastic book, can go into our society and challenge people and say, guys, all of us have a story to tell, all of us can transform our lives, but it's not going to happen by accident. It's going to happen intentionally.
Yes.
And the first thing that we have to do is, instead of spending weekend drinking copious amount of alcohol, let's spend the weekend reading copious amount of books and spend Sunday afternoon having conversation about powerful strategies, powerful processes that have been written by men like me and you, like others all over the world, on how we can transform our lives. So for me, Lameck, this is a great beginning, and congratulations. And my daughter has this book. She has started in the film industry. She's studying film, and my two fellows here will have this book. I hope this book stays behind with us so that they can read and they can also find some time and learn from it, because we've been in the industry for a long time. So thank you very much for making time to come and for us to have this conversation. I know it's a very long conversation, and it's a conversation that will go through different phases, but I'm encouraged that men like you took it upon themselves to say, I can contribute to the mindset of an African child, so that tomorrow it can be known that not only did Lameck make money out of filmmaking, but he shared his knowledge.
Thank you.
Pleasure, my brother.
That's why I'm trying to do workshops whenever I'm not working. I go to film schools. I offer myself time to teach and share some knowledge. So I'll continue doing that until someone comes back and say, that information that you shared that day, look where I am today. And I think it's also time we find a way of sharing that information on social media, because everyone is wasting time there.
Yeah, talking about breakfast and
Because you find people not working in offices, they're busy with WhatsApp and Facebook. But if you post something powerful there, you see people liking it, whether they read or they don't read. But it's time we make that change happen.
Thank you very much.
I
Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Beautiful.